but I truly believe that the next step is going to be through education, giving people the tools, giving people the positive coping strategies. Hey everyone, welcome to the Mind Matters show. This is the next episode. My name's Dan Hunt. Well, I just want to welcome you all here. And today I'm going to be sharing my story. The show is all about personal experience, lived experience, and sharing and that power of story. So what better way to kick it off than sharing my own story. So growing up, for myself, I grew up in Dapto, and it was tough, the environment I grew up in. That was my mum, my dad, my older brother, my older sister, and my younger brother. And that environment was it was domestic violence. There was physical, emotional abuse, and it would affect all of us in different ways. Our family now is very disjointed. I have no relationship with my father. I have no relationship with my older brother and my older sister. And we've all gone different paths, and it's all affected us in different ways. And I guess that the things that happen to us when we're younger have a big impact and a big bearing on us when we're older. But the environment that I grew up in was one, there was drug abuse, there was violence, both physical and emotional. And those things that happened shaped who I was. It's the nature versus nurture. And I was a product of my environment. I was an angry young man. At school, I was hard to teach. At training and footy, I was angry and aggressive. I used to fight a lot as a young kid. And I guess those things kids are, and I truly believe kids are a product of their environment. But the thing that I had was rugby league. Rugby league was the thing that gave me purpose, gave me structure, and kept me on the straight and narrow. And it gave me a way to, I guess, put all those struggles, all those things that were going on with me and my family, and put them into an output, so to speak. So I did that. I made some choices. I stopped hanging around a certain group of people, and I set some goals. Because when I was 16, I made the Illawarra representative sides, and I wanted to really have a crack at making rugby league a career, and wanted to be able to, I guess, make something of my life or be successful. So I set those goals, and I worked really bloody hard. At one point there, I think it was for nearly a 12-month period, I was working at Woolworths, I was going to school, and I was training, all to make first grade. But during this whole time, I'd be up, I'd be down. My moods were like a roller coaster. I guess one word to explain how I was volatile. I'd be disengaged one day, not being able to talk to anyone, really like depressed. And then other days I'd be bouncing off the walls, I guess training really well, socialising, going out, doing all these different things. And I just thought that's who I was. I'd be up and down, I was moody. I had no understanding of mental health or mental illness. So I kept going on, and in 2007, I made my NRL debut for the St George Illawarra Dragons. So you could say it was a big tick, like your dreams come true. As a young kid, 6 years old, running around, you wanted to play in the NRL, and I did that. So you could say, well, why would you have anything wrong with you? Why would you be depressed? You're on TV, you're playing footy, you're earning decent money, and things like that. But for me, there just wasn't something. There was just something that wasn't quite right. I don't know what it was, and as I said, it was just that roller coaster. And the thoughts and stuff in my head and the things from my past, and I just didn't know what was going on. I didn't know how to deal with it. So I just went on and did the best that I could. That's all we can do, right? Do the best that we can. And fast forward down to 2010. 2010, if you don't know, that was the year that the Dragons won the premiership. Wayne Bennett was my coach. He was our coach at that time, and he's a great man. In 2010, I was playing the best footy of my career. I'd started every game, and things were going good. Wayne was the coach, like I was flying. Life was good. In round 22 of the warm-up against Canberra, I turned in a warm-up drill and I snapped my Achilles tendon, and it rolled up my leg. That was 12 to 18 month rehab before I'd play footy again, but I missed the grand final. I watched my team go on to play and win the grand final. And I'm not gonna lie, I struggled. It was just a tough time. Watching them win, me not being a part of it, me not being able to do anything. I was training by myself in rehab, and what happened was all that stuff from my past that come back and hit me like a ton of bricks. And I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to show the emotions. I didn't know how to be sad. I didn't know how to deal with it. And what happened was, when you get surgery, you get painkillers to take away the physical pain. But I started to take them to take away the emotional pain. And over a 6 to 12 month period, I've become addicted to painkillers. I was taking them to escape reality, to deal with what was going on in my head. And it put me into some really dark headspaces. I'd cocktail them, alcohol, different things like that, because I just didn't care. I was over, I was done. There was no light at the end of the tunnel for me. And it got to the point where one night I took too much, and I remember waking up the next day and knowing that I didn't want to die. I wanted to live. And it was just like, I don't know if you call it a light bulb moment, but it was like, shit, I think I fucking need some help. And I guess that coincided with Wayne Bennett that week coming up to me. Wayne Bennett, if you don't know, he's the greatest coach of all time. Now, I might be a bit biased, but he is the greatest coach of all time. He's won 7 premierships, but he doesn't just care about the player, he cares about the person. And I owe a lot to this man. And what he did was, he could see I was struggling. He could see my body language at training, my aura, I guess just how I was. And he came up to me and asked me 2 simple questions. He asked me, was I okay? And was there anything he could do to help me? And coming from an environment where you got told you're a pussy, or you got told to toughen up and things like that, to hear those 2 words from a man like him, mate, it felt really good. And I took it up. I opened up to him. I cried, I let everything out. And it felt good. It was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And it was something that also gave me the idea that I did need help and things like that. So what happened there was the Black Dog Institute the following week come in. And they're a mental health organisation that assists people with a mental illness. They educate around mental health and mental illness. And they come in to do a presentation. And during that presentation, I distinctly remembered me just sitting there, and it felt like I was the only person in the room. It felt like the presenter was just talking to me, and everything he was saying just kept hitting home. All these signs and symptoms. Was like, shit, mate, is he just talking about me? And afterwards, I remember one of my teammates said to me, he goes, I bet you some of that really resonated with you. And I didn't really say anything at the time, because I was still trying to wear that mask. Because how are you supposed to explain something to someone when you don't understand it yourself? So there was an online questionnaire you could do, so I went home and did that. And it come back with red flags that you may be experiencing or struggling with a mental illness. And I'm not gonna lie, I shit myself. I'm like, fuck, do I have a mental illness? And that, when I said light bulb moment before, this was the light bulb moment. I need help. And being a footy player, you're not going to put your hand up, you're not going to talk about your emotions, because you come into an environment where you test yourself physically, emotionally, mentally every single day. So you're not going to talk about your feelings and your struggles and stuff like that, because that's a sign of weakness. You're giving someone the edge on you. Well, I know now that it takes a stronger man to ask for help than it does to just suffer in silence. So I made the decision that I needed help. So I decided I booked myself into the Black Dog Institute. It was up in Randwick in Sydney, and I drove myself up. I went up there 1 hour, spent the day up there. I'm not gonna lie, I was very, very scared. My anxiety was high. I remember my palms were sweaty driving up. I couldn't concentrate on the road, and I got up there, and sitting in the waiting room, the things I was worried about was what I was gonna have to face, what I was gonna have to talk about, but I guess the outcomes and what the outcomes were going to be. But I spent the day there, different tests, different doctors, blood tests, talking to psychologists, psychiatrists, and the the process of that was really, really good for myself. It got a lot of stuff out. It gave me a lot of perspective, and it gave me a lot of context on things. At the end of that, I got called into their office. There was a table. They were all there with their white lab coats on, and they gave me my diagnosis. And they told me that I had type 2 bipolar. Now, type 2 bipolar, it's a mental illness. It's a mood disorder. It's a chemical imbalance in the brain. You can have really high highs and you can have really low lows. They can last for periods. It's different for everybody. And getting diagnosed with a mental illness for a lot of people would be a big negative. But for myself, I didn't look at it that way. Honestly, it was a weight lifted off my shoulders. It gave my life context, why my relationships were the way they were, why my moods would be up and down, why I handled the grand final so poorly, and why I'd become addicted to drugs, and why I'd be so disengaged at times, and why I was so angry. So it gave me context. Like, say there's the bookshelf, and the books went back on the shelf in chronological order, A to Z. All that started to make sense. But what it did was, it motivated me to understand. I wanted to understand my illness. I wanted to understand what I needed to do for myself to get myself better. The doctors told me I had to continually see a psychologist and a psychiatrist. I got prescribed medication. I was on antipsychotic medication. I was on mood stabilizers, and I was on medication to help me sleep. And I was on that for a period of 3 years to get my moods back stable, and just in a headspace where I could make some really positive decisions for myself. And it wasn't easy, I'm not gonna lie. The first psychologist I spoke to I didn't get along with, and things like that. But it's like if you get a bad haircut, are you gonna go back to that barber? Probably not. But are you ever gonna get a haircut again? Of course you are. So it's trial and error. It's the same with a psychologist. So I had to try another one, and I did. And I found my psychologist now. She's great. We've worked through so much, and it's a pleasure working with her, and she's made massive changes in my life. I had to put those support networks in place for myself. My wife has been there for me since day one. She's helped me in so many ways. She makes me be the best version of myself every single day, and I would not be here today if it wasn't for her. My mum's been a great support network for me. Everything that she went through growing up for myself, she's one of the toughest ladies I've ever met. And I have so much respect and love for my mum and what she's done for myself and my family, and I love you, mum. Those support networks are so important, I know now, in managing your mental health. So then I had to learn the coping strategies. I had to trial and error. I had to put things in place that work for me. I had to change things. I had to add things. And I had to put these things in place to help myself manage my mental health or my mental illness. And got back to playing footy. I made City Country, I made Australian Prime Ministers. We won a World Club Challenge in 2011, and I looked at that as that was my grand final. And I had some really successful years at the Dragons, and I absolutely love footy. Footy was my life. But we fast forward down to 2015 in the Auckland Nines. I was playing, I was back. I've had 8 major surgeries in my career, and I haven't had a real good run with injury. My body fell apart towards the end. But in 2015, in the Auckland Nines game, I took a hit up. I was fighting in the tackle. I remember trying to get an offload or something, and I got hit from the side on my left knee. I went off the field. I was in a lot of pain. We didn't really know what was going on. We got back to Australia. I got an MRI, and I seen 2 different surgeons, I remember, and they both told me that your career's over. You'll never play the game again. You'll be lucky to run again. And at 28 years old, that was pretty hard to take. I'm not going to lie. And my headspace, you can imagine the headspace I was in. My anxiety was through the roof. I was in a bit of a depressive state because I didn't know how I was going to react to it. I had to get surgery again? Was I going to go back to that place? Was I going to become addicted to painkillers again? But I didn't. We speak of this word resilience, and people say it's about bouncing back, which it is about bouncing back. But I believe it's about becoming adaptable to your situation and working through adversity and overcoming adversity. And that's what I did. All those coping strategies, those support networks, those tools, the communication that I'd learned after I got diagnosed, I had to put in place. And that's what I did. And I worked through it. And I did probably one of the hardest things I had to do, and retire from rugby league at 28 years old. 28 years old, props are in their prime. Maybe, fingers crossed, could have played till I was 33, 34, but my career got cut short at 28. And one of the biggest things in helping me in that transition was gratitude, because I didn't look at what was taken away from me or what I couldn't do anymore. I looked at what I did. I got to play 150 games. Some kids never got to play one. So, I looked at my wife in my life, my daughter Tyler, and all these different things that were going on, and there were so many positives. So I transitioned. I now work with the Dragons in welfare and education, which is a dream job for me, because I can share my trials and tribulations, my story, my experiences, and my study. I can share that with others to help them. And I've also created the mental health movement. During my struggles, I felt alone. I didn't have any education around mental health or mental illness. I thought it was weak if you asked for help, and I didn't know where to or how to get help. And I knew other people would be feeling the same way. So I created the mental health movement to educate and develop a more resilient individual to be the best version of themselves each and every day through the power of story, through lived experience, and through education. And that's what I've done. And I can sit here and say now that I'm medication free. I'm the healthiest and happiest that I've ever been. And I'm on a mission to help others. And I cannot wait to keep moving forward in my life, keep moving forward with my mental health movement, my family, and my Mind Matters, the Mind Matters show, to keep bringing you this content. So until next time, guys, I look forward to seeing and speaking to you all, and always remember, the Mind Matters.